If 3 simple words whispered to yourself before sleep tonight could shift the course of your life, would you say them? Not tomorrow, not next week, but tonight, one time, and everything changes. It was in that stillness that I heard, not with my ears, but in the deepest part of my being, these 3 words. I repeated them softly, feeling their weight, their truth. The moment I let them saturate my mind, I surrendered to sleep. What follows is the understanding of why these words hold such creative power, and how saying them just before sleep opens the door to a greater life. When you apply the law of assumption before sleep, you are entering the final and most potent moment of creation. In this drowsy state, your conscious resistance is lowered and the subconscious, that infinite fertile field, is open. This is why manifestation before sleep is far more effective than at any other time of day. By saying the 3 words manifestation technique with full acceptance, you impress upon the mind a seed that will germinate in the darkness. It is the powerful manifestation technique that requires no effort beyond the willingness to believe that it is already done. Before sleep, in that holy stillness, let your last thought be these words, not as a question, not as a plea, but as an established fact. The before sleep manifestation state is when your imagination and reality meet in quiet agreement. And when you repeat these words, you are participating in subconscious reprogramming before sleep, sealing the truth in the deepest chamber of your mind. Remember, it is not repetition that makes it work, but the quality of your acceptance in that single moment. For the 3 magic words before sleep will only work if you clothe them in feeling, as though they are already part of your life. This is how you change your life before sleep, not by effort, but by quiet certainty. There is a moment each night when the day's noise fades, and the mind stands at the threshold between the seen and the unseen. In that moment, you are no longer wholly in the waking world, yet you have not fully surrendered to the depths of sleep. It is a sacred passage, and what you place into the mind at that time is not lost in the wandering currents of the day. It sinks directly into the fertile depths of the subconscious, where all creation begins. Most people let this moment pass unnoticed. They carry the burdens of the day into the night, rehearsing worries, arguments, or regrets. In doing so, they unknowingly plant the seeds of tomorrow's harvest. But to the one who understands, this is the golden instant, the last conscious act before surrender, and it holds more power than all the restless effort spent in daylight hours. It is here that a single conscious act can outweigh 100 unguarded thoughts scattered throughout the day. This act is not about physical doing, but about inward being. It is the deliberate choice to embody, in feeling and in thought, the state of your desired reality. You may call it a seed, small, quiet, and seemingly insignificant. Yet this seed, once dropped into the rich soil of the mind, will not rest. Through the mysterious processes of the unseen, it begins to take shape, to form, to express itself outwardly in your world. The reason it is so potent before sleep is that the conscious mind, with all its skepticism and resistance, grows silent. The guards at the gates are drowsy, and the impression slips past without struggle. When one truly grasps the significance of this, the scattered striving of the day begins to feel unnecessary. In that final moment before sleep, you are not battling circumstances. You are not attempting to manipulate events. You are simply deciding who you are. The outer world may declare otherwise, but in that quiet interval, you withdraw your attention from appearances and set it firmly upon the reality you choose to live in. The feeling of it, the conviction of it, becomes your last conscious awareness. And because the subconscious accepts, without question, what it is given in this state, it begins at once to arrange the circumstances that will mirror that inner assumption. Imagine a sculptor who holds in his mind the form he intends to reveal from the marble. He does not rush or swing his chisel wildly at random moments. He approaches with precision, knowing each strike carries intention. So it is with the mind before sleep. One intentional impression at this hour is more effective than many careless affirmations tossed about during the distractions of the day. For the subconscious does not measure effort. It responds to clarity, certainty, and feeling. It will bring forth not what you wish for faintly, but what you accept deeply. The key is to act inwardly as though you are already the person who possesses what you desire. If it is freedom from lack you seek, do not wait for the evidence, assume it now. Let your mind and heart agree that it is already so. This is not a matter of repeating words mechanically, for words without feeling are like seeds cast upon stone. Instead, allow the emotion that would naturally accompany the fulfilled desire to rise within you. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the ease. Let it be so real in your imagination that you could drift into sleep believing it has already happened. Some may think, how can one moment be so powerful when I have thought contrary thoughts all day? Yet consider this, the day's thoughts are often fleeting, scattered, and without depth. But this final act before sleep is focused, deliberate, and undisturbed. It is not diluted by conflicting impressions. It is like a single drop of potent dye placed into clear water. It will color the whole. In this way, even if the waking hours have been filled with doubt, the last conscious thought can turn the tide, for it is impressed when the mind is most receptive. The subconscious is like the earth that does not care whether you plant a thorn or a rose. It will accept whatever seed you drop into it, nurture it in the darkness, and bring it to harvest in due season. Therefore, be watchful of what you give it in this twilight moment. If you close your eyes with the feeling of fear or lack, you plant the very conditions you wish to escape. But if you close them with the assurance of having already received your desire, you plant the conditions that will bring it to pass. It is a profound responsibility, for you are the sower of your own destiny. Night after night, the field of your mind receives its seeds, and the harvest is inevitable. Some awaken years later to find themselves living in the full, grown version of what they have unconsciously planted. But to those who take hold of this truth now, life becomes an art. Each night is another opportunity to shape the invisible clay, to direct the streams of creation toward the image you have chosen. In this way, a single conscious act before sleep is not merely a habit, it is the master key. You are stepping into the silence and declaring, with feeling, "This is who I am," and the infinite within you accepts the declaration as law. From that moment, the wheels begin to turn, the unseen threads begin to weave, and the outer life must, by the law of its nature, conform to the inner pattern. The seed is sown, and the harvest is certain. There is a bridge between the waking world and the realm of dreams, a quiet, shadowed place where the body begins to release its grip on the senses, and the mind drifts in that delicate balance between here and there. This drowsy state is more than a passage into rest. It is the open doorway to the deepest part of your being. Most live their lives never realizing that this doorway exists, and fewer still recognize its creative significance. In this brief interval, when you are neither fully awake nor fully asleep, the mind becomes pliable, receptive, unguarded. It is here, in this twilight of consciousness, that the seeds of your outer life are most easily planted. During the day, the conscious mind stands alert like a sentinel, judging, reasoning, and often rejecting anything that does not align with its current beliefs. If you tell yourself in the bright hours of noon that you are wealthy, loved, or free, the watchman of reason will often scoff, saying, "It is not so." Yet in the drowsy state, the sentinel grows drowsy too. The line between what is and what could be becomes blurred, and the subconscious, which is the creative power of your life, listens without judgment. In this receptive silence, a single idea can slip past the conscious guard and take root where it cannot be uprooted. This is why the moments before sleep hold such importance. You are entering the most fertile soil for creation. The subconscious does not argue, does not measure possibility, does not concern itself with how a thing will come to pass. It accepts the pattern it is given and brings it into form with perfect fidelity. When you are drowsy, the conscious mind's resistance softens, and whatever you impress upon yourself in that state is taken as truth. That truth may be a blessing or a curse depending on what you allow to occupy your mind in those final moments. Think of the drowsy state as the still water of a quiet pond. When the surface is calm, the smallest pebble will send ripples to the very edges. In the noise of full wakefulness, the water is turbulent and the ripples are lost in the waves. But as you drift towards sleep, the waters settle, and the image you cast upon them remains clear and undisturbed until it sinks to the depths. There, in the silence beneath the surface, it becomes the blueprint from which your future emerges. In this twilight, imagination is no longer bound by the rigid laws of the waking world. Here, you can embody the feeling of your wish fulfilled without the interruption of the senses insisting otherwise. You can walk in the reality of your desire as though it were already so, and the subconscious will take it as fact. The body may lie in a small room, but the mind is free to dwell in the mansion of its own choosing. And because the subconscious cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced, it accepts the imagined state and works tirelessly to make the outer match the inner. Many fail to use this state consciously because they allow the cares of the day to spill into the night. They rehearse arguments, relive disappointments, or imagine the continuance of unwanted conditions. In doing so, they plant the very seeds they would least wish to see grow. But if you can learn to direct this state with intention, to step into it clothed in the feeling of your fulfilled desire, you can transform your life without struggle. You will discover that the outer world is only the shadow cast by the inner, and that by shaping the inner in these drowsy moments, you control the pattern of the shadow. When the eyelids grow heavy and the breath slows, you are standing at the gateway of creation. In that gentle drift, begin to withdraw your attention from the facts of the day and turn it toward the scene you wish to experience. Let it be so real that you forget the waking world entirely. Do not strain. The drowsy state is not a place of effort but of surrender. You are not trying to force an image into being. You are letting it in. You are inviting it to take up residence in the quiet holes of your mind, where it will be nourished and strengthened until the day it emerges into your experience. Understand that this state is not to be rushed. Just as a seed planted in the ground requires the darkness of the earth to grow, so does the idea you impress upon your subconscious require the darkness of sleep. In the drowsy state, you place the seed. Sleep is the covering that protects it from the interference of doubt. The next day and the days that follow will carry the unseen work forward until it becomes visible. Your task is not to dig up the seed to check its progress, but to trust that the moment you impressed it, the work began. It is in this way that the drowsy state opens the subconscious to receive. It is not about the length of time spent there, but about the quality of feeling you bring into it. A single moment of deep, vivid conviction in this state can do more to alter the course of your life than hours of conscious effort when the mind is alert and resistant. The key is to know that you are speaking to the most faithful servant in existence, one who will carry out whatever command you give without question. And in the drowsy state, every whisper is a command. The last thought you take with you into the silence of sleep is the seed from which tomorrow grows. It is the final brushstroke on the canvas of the day, and it will remain there undisturbed while the mind retreats from the world of action into the world of creation. Most people close their eyes thinking about the troubles they faced, the disappointments that came, or the duties they must handle tomorrow. In doing so, they unknowingly set into motion a chain of events that mirrors the very state they would wish to escape. The last thought at night is not idle. It is an instruction to the unseen power within, and it will be obeyed with precision. Sleep is not an end, but a passage into the workshop of creation. When the conscious mind grows quiet, the subconscious takes the stage, working without rest to manifest the impressions given to it. And because the last conscious impression before sleep is the freshest, the most vivid, it is the one that sinks most deeply into the subconscious. Think of it as the closing statement in a great trial. It leaves the most lasting mark on the verdict. You may have spoken many words throughout the day, but it is the final one that lingers in the chamber of the mind and sways the outcome. The creative role of this last thought is that it becomes the mold into which the substance of your life is poured. The subconscious does not create randomly. It reproduces the image impressed upon it. If that image is one of fear, doubt, or lack, then the conditions that follow will reflect that inner pattern. But if the image is one of fulfillment, joy, or abundance, the same law applies, and the outer world will shift to match it. The law is impartial. It gives shape to whatever it receives. Therefore, the last thought at night is not a trifle. It is the blueprint of your next experience. In those moments before you surrender to sleep, the senses grow dim and the body lies still. This is your opportunity to withdraw your attention from the evidence of the day and turn it toward the world you wish to inhabit. Do not wait for outer changes to make you feel secure or joyful. Feel secure and joyful now, as though the desire were already yours. Let that feeling be the last thing you carry into the depths of rest. For when the subconscious accepts an idea wrapped in genuine feeling, it works tirelessly to bring it forth into the light of day. Consider the farmer who ends his day by planting a single seed in the earth. He does not go out in the night to dig it up and check its progress. He trusts the process of growth. Likewise, the last thought you plant before sleep does not require your waking interference. Once sound, it is protected from the doubts and contradictions that often arise during waking hours. The subconscious tends to it in the silence, drawing from the infinite resources available to it, arranging circumstances, events, and even the actions of others to bring it into being. Many overlook this because they do not realize the seriousness of their inner conversations before sleep. They lie in bed replaying the day's frustrations, imagining tomorrow's difficulties, or revisiting old wounds. In doing so, they hand to the subconscious a set of blueprints for the very life they seek to avoid. And because the subconscious does not reason, it simply builds according to the pattern it has been given. The one who understands this will guard the last thought as a sacred act, choosing it deliberately, knowing it will become the seed of tomorrow's reality. The last thought at night is not just mental, it is emotional. It is the union of thought and feeling that impresses upon the subconscious with the greatest power. Words alone, spoken mechanically, may pass unnoticed, but a thought clothed in the feeling of its reality cannot be ignored. This is why it is not enough to merely say to yourself, "I am happy," if your heart is heavy. Instead, dwell upon an image, a scene, or an idea that naturally produces the feeling of happiness in you, and let that feeling expand until it is the only reality you know in that moment. When that is the last thing the mind holds, it becomes the foundation upon which the night's work is built. It is not the length of time you hold this thought that matters most, but the depth of your acceptance of it. A few moments of sincere, vivid inner experience before sleep can outweigh hours of conscious effort in the day. The reason is simple: in sleep, the subconscious works without the interference of doubt, fear, or logic. It accepts what you have given it and begins to weave it into the fabric of your life. The outer world, which many believe to be fixed and unyielding, will bend itself to match the inner image. To live carelessly in this moment is to leave your life to chance. To live deliberately in it is to shape your destiny. Each night as you prepare for rest, ask yourself, what image, what feeling do I want to carry with me into the depths of sleep? Then give yourself wholly to that image. See it as already accomplished, feel it as already true, and refuse to let any other thought replace it. Drift into sleep holding it gently, not as a wish, but as a fact. The creative power within will accept it as such, and the days ahead will reveal its handiwork. It is not the length of a prayer that moves the unseen power. It is the depth of conviction with which it is spoken. 1,000 words spoken without belief are nothing more than noise in the wind, while 3 words alive with feeling can alter the entire course of a life. The world has been taught to measure effectiveness by quantity. The more you say, the more you do. The more you think, the greater the result. But in the realm of creation, the measure is not quantity but quality. A single moment of absolute certainty can outweigh years of mechanical repetition. 3 words can hold more power than 100 affirmations because they are not weighed down by excess. They are pure, concentrated, and sharp like a finely honed blade. When the mind receives them in the right state, especially in the quiet drowsiness before sleep, they slip past all resistance and sink into the subconscious as a command. And the subconscious, being faithful and impartial, begins to arrange the outer world to match that command. In that moment, it is not the mind that works, but the certainty behind the words. Consider how in moments of great emotion, A single phrase can change the direction of a life. A declaration of love, a promise made, a truth spoken in the heat of conviction. These are rarely long speeches. They are brief, but they carry weight because they come from the deepest part of the speaker. The same is true of the words you speak to yourself. If they are chosen with care, aligned with the reality you wish to live, and felt as true in the very core of your being, they become living seeds. The reason so many find themselves repeating endless affirmations without result is because they have mistaken repetition for belief. They think that by saying something enough times, they will eventually make it true. But the subconscious does not respond to the number of times a statement is spoken. It responds to the feeling of reality that accompanies it. 3 words, said once but felt as though they were already true, have more creative power than 100 sentences recited without inner movement. Imagine a key. It does not matter whether the key is large or small. What matters is whether it fits the lock. Once the lock turns, the door opens. Likewise, 3 words that perfectly match the state you wish to embody will unlock the gates of your subconscious, while long strings of words that do not carry that state will leave the door closed. This is why simplicity can be far more powerful than complexity in the work of inner creation. The more direct the statement, the more easily the mind can accept it without distraction or contradiction. The potency of 3 words lies also in the fact that they can be remembered and held without strain. You can take them with you throughout the day, repeating them softly in moments of stillness, letting them become the silent undercurrent of your thoughts. And when night comes, they can be the final imprint upon your mind before you surrender to sleep. In that twilight state, you do not need a long speech to convince the subconscious. You only need to let those 3 words settle into place as an unquestioned truth. These words must be chosen with intention. They should be a natural expression of the reality you wish to live, not a desperate plea to escape the one you have. If they feel like a wish or a request, they will be taken as such, and the subconscious will keep them at a distance. But if they feel like a declaration, a statement of what already is, they will be accepted instantly. This is why many who stumble upon the right phrase in the right moment see rapid change. It is not magic but alignment. The words, the feeling, and the state of consciousness all match, and creation begins immediately. Think of the times in your life when a decision was made in an instant, yet that instant shaped years to come. The words spoken in that moment were few, but they were absolute. This is the nature of creative speech within. It does not require endless explanation, only the certainty that what is said is already real. In that certainty, the subconscious has no choice but to build the world according to the pattern it has received. 3 words can hold more power than 100 affirmations because they bypass the restless mind and go straight to the heart. They are not diluted by the effort of remembering long statements or the distraction of unnecessary detail. They strike directly at the center of the self, where belief is born. And once belief is born, it grows on its own, without the need for constant attention. When you choose these words, speak them not as though you are hoping they will come to pass, but as though they are describing the life you are already living. Feel the truth of them as deeply as you can, and let that feeling be the final thing you carry into the depths of sleep. In that quiet surrender, the seed is planted, and the harvest is certain. It does not matter that the words are few. What matters is that they are alive. A living seed, no matter how small, contains within it the blueprint for the entire tree. Every act of inner creation is a planting. The mind is the soil, and the thought, charged with feeling, is the seed. The nature of the soil determines nothing of the seed's kind. It will bring forth whatever is placed within it. Whether the seed is a thorn or a rose, the earth makes no judgment. It simply accepts and nourishes. The same law operates within you. The subconscious does not argue, question, or refuse. It takes the impression given to it and begins, without hesitation, to bring it into form. This is why the moments before sleep are so sacred. In that drowsy stillness, the soil of the mind is freshly turned, open, and ready to receive. When you enter that state between waking and sleep, you are holding the seed in your hands. The question is, what seed will you plant? Many plant weeds without realizing it. They replay the day's disappointments, imagine tomorrow's difficulties, or dwell on fears and resentments. These are seeds as surely as joy, love, and abundance are seeds, and they will grow according to their kind. The soil does not refuse them, it will faithfully bring them to harvest. This is why deliberate planting is essential. The last thought before sleep is not idle. It is the seed you drop into the unseen field that will become your future. To plant well, you must choose the seed deliberately and clothe it in feeling. A dry seed will not germinate, it needs the moisture of emotion. The seed of a fulfilled desire must be soaked in the feeling of its reality. If it is wealth you wish to experience, feel the security and ease of one who already possesses it. If it is love, feel the warmth, the belonging, the joy of already being cherished. That feeling is the life within the seed. Without it, you are only scattering words into barren ground. Once the seed is planted, your work is finished. You do not need to watch the soil or pull it apart to see if it has begun to grow. The seed contains within itself the pattern of the plant it will become, and the soil knows how to bring it forth. Likewise, the subconscious, once given the seed of your fulfilled desire, knows perfectly how to arrange circumstances, events, and encounters to bring it into visibility. You are not required to know the method. You are only required to plant with certainty and leave the rest to the unseen process. In the outer world, seeds require time to germinate, sprout, and mature. So it is with the seeds of the mind. There may be a delay between planting and harvest, but the process begins the moment the seed is placed. The subconscious begins its silent work immediately, drawing upon infinite resources, weaving together conditions that to the waking mind seem coincidental or miraculous. But they are neither. They are the inevitable growth of the seed you planted in the rich darkness before sleep. The wise planter knows that the quality of the harvest depends entirely on the quality of the seed. Careless planting produces a careless harvest. This is why you must be vigilant in that final moment before you surrender to the night. If you drift into sleep with thoughts of lack, loneliness, or fear, you have planted seeds of the same, and when their fruit appears, you may forget that you yourself planted them. Life will seem to have happened to you, when in truth it has grown out of you. To understand this is to hold in your hands the power to shape your destiny. Each night is another season of planting. The field never lies fallow unless you leave it so. Even the absence of deliberate planting is itself a planting, for in that absence, the weeds of worry and doubt creep in unchallenged. The soil of the mind will never remain empty. It will always grow what is placed in it, whether by choice or by neglect. Therefore, make the act of planting before sleep a sacred ritual. Withdraw your attention from the day's events and turn inward to the image you wish to see reflected in the world. Do not merely think of it. Enter into it. Live it inwardly until it feels as natural as your current surroundings. Let it be so vivid that you forget for a moment the bed you lie in. That is when the seed is most alive, and in that aliveness, it sinks deeply into the soil. Once you plant, trust the process. The farmer does not demand that the seed show signs of growth by morning. He knows that the work is being done in secret. So it is with you. You do not need to wake and wonder whether the subconscious has heard you. It always hears, always responds, always brings forth the pattern it has been given. Your role is to plant well, to plant deliberately, and to plant only what you wish to harvest. The harvest will come, for the law of growth cannot be broken. And when it does, it will seem to arrive by natural means. The very people, places, and opportunities needed will appear in your life, each playing their part to bring your seed to fruition. To the one who understands, these are not accidents, but the unfolding of the pattern planted in the secret place. And it all begins with that single, deliberate act before sleep, the planting of the seed in the receptive soil of the mind. Words by themselves are lifeless symbols, mere sounds or marks upon a page. They carry no creative force until they are clothed in belief. Faith is the breath that animates them, the invisible life that turns them from idle utterances into living realities. A statement spoken without conviction is like a seed left on the surface of the ground. It may be heard by the ear, but it never penetrates to the soil where growth begins. But let that same statement be filled with faith, and it is pressed deep into the heart of the mind, where it takes root and begins to shape the unseen currents of your life. Faith is not blind wishing. It is not a desperate hope that something might happen. Faith is the inner knowing that it already is. It refuses to look to the evidence of the senses for confirmation, because it understands that the senses only reflect the past creations of the mind. Faith stands in the present moment and claims the desired state as already accomplished. It speaks the words not as a request but as a declaration of fact. This is why faith transforms words. It aligns the inner feeling with the outer statement until they are one. When you speak in faith, you do not need to convince yourself over and over. One statement made in the fullness of belief is enough to set creation in motion, just as a single spark can ignite a fire that burns long after the match has gone out. So one word spoken in faith continues to work long after it has been uttered. The subconscious takes it as truth and begins to shape your world accordingly. It does not require constant reminding. It requires that you stand firm in the conviction that what you have declared is real. Without faith, words become empty motions. You might repeat 100 affirmations each day, but if they are accompanied by a feeling of doubt or contradiction, they will produce nothing. The subconscious listens more to the tone of feeling than to the sound of syllables. It hears the emotion behind the words and accepts that as the true statement. If you say, "I am free," but inwardly feel bound, it is the feeling of bondage that is planted, not the phrase of freedom. But if you say, "I am free," with the calm assurance of one who already lives in freedom, then the subconscious receives freedom as the fact and begins to unfold it in your experience. Faith does not require the means to be visible. It is not concerned with the question, "How will this come to pass?" It rests in the certainty that it already has. In the unseen realm, there is no delay. The moment you assume a state in faith, it exists. The appearance of time between assumption and manifestation is only the process by which the outer world rearranges itself to match the inner pattern. Faith holds to the inner reality during this process, never allowing the senses to shake its certainty. This is why words spoken in faith feel different. They do not carry the vibration of striving or longing. They carry the quiet strength of completion. When you say them, you are not trying to make them true. You are acknowledging that they are true. And because the subconscious accepts what is believed without question, it moves heaven and earth to bring the outer into harmony with the inner. Circumstances shift, people change their course, opportunities appear, and what seemed impossible becomes inevitable. The creative power within you responds instantly to faith. It does not matter whether the words are few or many. What matters is that they are alive with conviction. 3 words spoken in faith can overturn a lifetime of limitation, for faith erases the old patterns and replaces them with the new. It is like planting a seed of a completely different species in your garden. No matter how long weeds have grown there, the new seed, if nurtured by faith, will grow according to its own nature and eventually overtake the old growth. Faith transforms words because it changes the speaker. When you speak in faith, you are not the same person you were a moment before. You have shifted your identity to match the reality you have claimed. And identity is the root from which all experience grows. If you claim health in faith, you are no longer the one who is seeking healing. You are the one who is whole. If you claim abundance in faith, you are no longer the one who lacks. You are the one who possesses. From this new identity, all corresponding experiences flow naturally, without struggle. To speak in faith before sleep is to hand the subconscious a living seed rather than a dead one. In the quiet drowsiness of that final moment, faith takes the words and impresses them so deeply that no contrary thought can uproot them. The night becomes the silent field in which they grow, and by the time you wake, the unseen work has already begun. The outer changes may not yet be visible, but the pattern is complete and the manifestation is certain. Faith is the difference between speaking to the air and speaking to creation itself. Without it, your words return empty. With it, they return fulfilled. To live this way is to understand that nothing in your world is fixed except by your belief in it, and that belief can be changed in an instant by the deliberate use of faith, filled words. In that instant, you have altered the blueprint from which your life is built, and the outer form must follow. Many believe that the secret to creating change lies in repeating a statement over and over until it somehow forces itself into reality. They treat the mind as though it were a stubborn lock that could be pried open only through constant knocking. But the truth is that creation does not respond to the force of repetition. It responds to the quality of the impression. It is not how many times you say a thing, but how deeply you feel it when you say it. A single utterance, saturated with the feeling of fulfillment, will accomplish more than countless mechanical repetitions spoken without inner movement. Repetition, when done without conviction, becomes an act of desperation. The very need to say the same words again and again reveals that you have not yet accepted them as true. If you truly believed, you would not feel the urge to convince yourself. You would rest in the quiet certainty that it is already done. True acceptance does not require reminders. When you accept something as real, it becomes the background of your awareness, present even when you are not consciously thinking about it. The mind is not impressed by sound alone, it is impressed by the union of sound and feeling. If you say, "I am free," but your heart is heavy with doubt, the subconscious hears the feeling, not the phrase. The unspoken emotion becomes the real message, and that is what is planted. But if you say, "I am free," with the same calm assurance you would use to say, "The sun has risen," then you are not trying to create freedom. You are acknowledging its presence. That acknowledgement, once felt, is enough to set the creative process in motion. To avoid the trap of empty repetition, you must focus on entering the state of the wish fulfilled, even if only for a moment. Let the words be few, but let them be alive. Feel what it would be like if your desire were already an accomplished fact. Let that feeling grow until it fills your mind so completely that no other reality seems possible. In that moment, the subconscious is impressed, and the work is done. The rest is only the unfolding of what has already been accepted. This is why a brief session of intense, vivid feeling before sleep can be more effective than hours of repeated affirmations during the day. At night, when the mind is quiet and the senses are withdrawing, the subconscious is most receptive. A single act of acceptance in this state sinks deeper than 1,000 attempts made while fully awake and distracted. You do not need to hold the image for hours. You only need to feel it so completely that it becomes the truth to you in that instant. Once accepted, the subconscious takes over and begins the silent work of bringing it into form. Repetition can be useful only if it is used as a means of returning to the feeling, not as an attempt to force belief. If saying the words helps you evoke the state, then use them. But the goal is not to repeat endlessly. It is to arrive at the place where repetition is no longer necessary. The moment you feel the reality of your desire so strongly that you could drop the matter entirely and trust it is done, you have succeeded. Acceptance is the end of struggle. It is the quiet knowing that allows you to release the desire into the unseen with full confidence that it will return fulfilled. When you accept, you are no longer seeking, asking, or striving. You are simply being. And in being, you align with the reality you have chosen, and the outer world must reflect it. This is the essence of creation, not to force, but to allow, not to beg, but to claim. Think of the difference between a person knocking on a door, uncertain if anyone will answer, and a person who walks confidently into their own home without hesitation. The first is repetition without acceptance. Each knock is an attempt to gain permission. The second is pure acceptance. No permission is needed, for it is already theirs. When you create inwardly, you must enter your desire as one enters their own home. You do not announce yourself repeatedly, you simply live there. When you avoid empty repetition and focus instead on the vivid feeling of already having, you remove the greatest barrier to manifestation, the constant reminder that you do not yet have what you seek. Every time you repeat words without feeling, you reinforce the sense of lack. But when you enter the state fully, even for a moment, you erase the sense of separation between you and your desire. The two become one, and from that unity, creation flows effortlessly. This is why those who master the art of acceptance appear to others as if they have an uncanny power. They are not laboring, struggling, or endlessly affirming. They act once inwardly, accept it as done, and then go about their lives with a quiet certainty. The outer world, seeing this certainty, begins to rearrange itself to match. Events line up, opportunities appear, and what once seemed far away becomes the natural order of things. So let your words be few but your acceptance complete. Feel the reality of your desire as if it were already part of your present experience. Let the satisfaction of that reality be the last thing you know before drifting into sleep. In that quiet moment, no further effort is required, for the seed has been planted, and the harvest is inevitable. The subconscious is the silent architect of your life, and it builds with only one blueprint: the truth as it is accepted by you. It does not ask whether that truth serves your happiness or your misery, whether it is noble or degrading. It does not weigh morality or practicality. It works with a single law: what is impressed upon it and accepted as true will be expressed in the outer world. This acceptance is the only criterion it knows, and once something is received in this way, its fulfillment is certain. The subconscious does not speculate, does not imagine alternatives, and does not question the origin of the idea. It takes what you give it, stamps it as reality, and proceeds to construct your world accordingly. If you persistently feed it with ideas of failure, unworthiness, or lack, it will bring forth conditions to match. If you impress it with images of success, worthiness, and abundance, it will do the same. The outer world, in all its complexity, is simply the visible arrangement of what the subconscious has accepted and held as fact. This is why it is dangerous to treat thoughts and feelings lightly. Every time you dwell upon an idea with feeling, whether in joy or in fear, you are impressing the subconscious. A fearful expectation entertained long enough becomes as much a command to the subconscious as a joyful vision of fulfillment. It does not distinguish between what you want and what you dread. It simply fulfills what is given with emotional conviction. The key to working with this law is to understand that acceptance is more than thinking a thought, it is inhabiting it. You may say, "I am wealthy," yet if your inner conversations contradict it, you have not accepted it. True acceptance comes when there is no longer any argument within you, when the statement feels as natural and unquestionable as saying, "I have two hands," or "the sun will rise." At that point, the subconscious receives it as fact, and from that moment on, it is part of the unseen reality waiting to be born into the visible. Once the subconscious accepts a truth, it organizes everything needed for its fulfillment. Circumstances shift, people change their actions, and events are set in motion to bring the outer into alignment with the inner. To the waking mind, these adjustments may appear as coincidence, luck, or even miracle. But they are none of these. They are simply the unfolding of the truth the subconscious already holds. The outer is compelled to mirror the inner, because the inner is the source from which all outer expression flows. If you accept a limiting belief, the subconscious will faithfully produce a world that validates it. This is why so many live in cycles they cannot seem to escape. They are continually feeding the subconscious the same truth, and so the same pattern repeats. Change begins not with external effort, but with altering what the subconscious accepts. You cannot escape a state while still regarding it as your reality. You must replace it inwardly with the state you wish to live, and accept that state as true now. Acceptance is instantaneous in its effect, even if the manifestation appears gradually. The moment the subconscious receives the new truth, it begins building from it. The outer world may take time to rearrange itself, but the reality is already complete in the unseen. This is why persistence in the feeling of the new state is essential. You are nurturing the seed until the plant breaks the surface. Doubt is nothing more than planting the old seed again, overwriting the new pattern with the one you are trying to replace. It is not necessary to know how the subconscious will bring about the fulfillment of the accepted truth. Just as you do not need to understand every detail of how a seed germinates to trust that it will grow, you do not need to know the mechanics of manifestation to trust that it is certain. The subconscious operates through channels you cannot predict. Often using means you could never have imagined. Your role is not to control the process, but to choose the truth you wish it to hold and to sustain your acceptance of it. This is also why the moments before sleep are so powerful. In that quiet drowsiness, the conscious mind's guard is lowered, and the subconscious is open to receive without resistance. If in those moments you enter the feeling of your wish fulfilled and accept it as reality, you have delivered the seed directly into the most fertile ground. Once accepted there, its fulfillment is no longer a matter of possibility but inevitability. The subconscious is always at work, day and night, creating from the truths it holds. It does not rest, it does not question, and it does not fail. Whatever you see in your world is proof of what has been accepted within. If you wish to change the world without, you must first change the truth within. And you change it not by force or struggle, but by replacing it with a higher truth, and accepting that higher truth as the only reality. From that moment, the work is done, and the rest is the natural unfolding of the law. You have now seen that the moments before sleep are not merely a fading of the day, but the opening of the most fertile field in existence. The thoughts and feelings you carry into that stillness are the seeds from which your tomorrow will grow. Whether they are 3 words, a vivid scene, or a single feeling of fulfillment, what you impress upon the mind in that sacred interval will be faithfully reproduced in your outer world. The law makes no exceptions. It asks no questions. It accepts only what you, in the depths of your being, have accepted as true. It is not the noise of endless affirmations that brings change, but the quiet certainty of one act of faith-filled acceptance. You are the sower, and each night you are given the soil and the seed. The choice is yours, to plant deliberately or to let weeds grow by neglect. All that you will ever experience must first be born within, for the inner world is the only true cause, and the outer is only its shadow. So when you lie down tonight, let your final thought be the truth you wish to live. Clothe it in the feeling of its reality, not as a wish or a request, but as an accomplished fact. Let it be so real that it needs no convincing, no repetition, only your surrender into the sleep that will carry it into the depths of creation. And when you wake, go about your day with the quiet confidence that the work is already done, and life will, with perfect certainty, reveal it to you.